This is an introduction presentation for The Tragedy of King Lear, a play written by William Shakespeare. King Lear was first performed at court in December 1605, and according to the Norton Shakespeare, the play was written before this, somewhere between 1603 and 1605. King Lear first appeared in print in 1608 in the quarto print titled M. William Shakespeare, His True Chronicle History of the Life and Death of King Lear. King Lear first appeared in the first folio in 1623 and was grouped with other tragedies because it was a different version from the quarto print. In the 18th century, the two plays were analyzed, and it was concluded that the play published in 1608 was the original play Shakespeare wrote, and that the 1623 version is a substantial revision. King Lear is often seen as one of Shakespeare's greatest tragedies. From the period of Restoration to the mid-19th century, the performance was not of Shakespeare's King Lear, but of The History of King Lear, which was an adaptation by Nahum Tate. The first professional performance of King Lear in North America was in 1752 by the Hallam Company. It's loosely based off of a lawsuit that was taking place around 1604 to 1605, in which two daughters were fighting to legally declare their father. This also brings relevance to why we say it was written somewhere between 1603 and 1605. In the 19th century, King Lear was not performed from the years 1811 to 1820 because of the controversy with George III's madness. In 1838, the first performance of King Lear without any Tate adaptations was performed. There are many sources of the play. King Lear is based off the legend of Lear of Britain, mythological pre-Roman Celtic king. It also mirrors a court case from the 1600s. The Annesley case was about two daughters attempting to get their father, Sir Brian Annesley, to be legally certified as insane. The youngest daughter, however, protested on her father's behalf. The younger daughter's name was Cordell Annesley. Characters in King Lear include King Lear, King of Britain, Goneril, Lear's eldest daughter, Regan, Lear's second daughter, Cordelia, Lear's youngest daughter, Lord Gloucester, Edgar, Lord Gloucester's son, Edmund, Lord Gloucester's illegitimate son, and the Fool, Lear's fool. Now for a plot summary, an elderly King Lear wishes to retire and split his realm between his three daughters. Goneril and Regan both declare their love for their father, but Cordelia holds her tongue, which causes King Lear to disinherit her and giving her land to Goneril and Regan. Cordelia marries the King of France and accompanies him to France without the blessings of her father. After announcing Goneril and Regan will receive the land, Goneril and Regan confess that their declaration of love was false, and that they find Lear to be a foolish man. Word gets to King Lear that his daughter's declaration of love was false, and becomes outraged. King Lear tries to reason with his daughters, but both of them become dismissive towards him, sending King Lear into more rage. Lord Gloucester realizes Lear's treatment and is destined to help. Regan soon finds out of Lord Gloucester's helping, and he is accused of treason and blinded. Gloucester is disguised by his son Edgar and led to Dover along with King Lear. Lord Gloucester's illegitimate son Edmund falls in love with Goneril and plot to kill her husband. The French soon invade Dover and collide with the English. In the end, Edgar kills Edmund in battle. Goneril kills Regina out of jealousy, and then kills herself when her plans are revealed to her husband. Cordelia is executed in prison, and King Lear dies out of grief in Cordelia's passing. The themes highlighted in the play include authority versus chaos, when King Lear gives his authority away, which ultimately brings Britain into total chaos. The two sisters' increasing urge for power and authority can contribute to the civil stifles in the kingdom. The lack of authority can also be seen as Lear begins to come to terms with how his loss of political control has led him to understand the chaos and confront it. Reconciliation is another theme. It's seen in the relationship between Lear and Cordelia. Even though Cordelia is banished by her father, she still remained loyal. After Lear comes to his realization, the reconciliation of Lear and Cordelia is brought into a greater light as Lear is able to see the good in his daughter and to find the place to love her even more even though the kingdom is falling into chaos. Madness is another theme. Insanity is a central and essential theme in the play. Lear himself becomes mad at the chaos that has overtaken his kingdom. The character of the fool often babbles on in an insane way while offering insight. There's also a strong contrast between what is mad and what is sane. Throughout the play, wisdom is often paralleled to insanity. And also, betrayal. In this play, betrayal is a huge theme. Goneril and Regan betray their father after he believes their false declaration of love. Goneril also betrays her husband by plotting to kill him and falling in love with Edmund. Edmund can also be seen as betrayal due to his illegitimate being. The main betrayal theme, however, is King Lear betraying his daughter Cordelia for being honest with the father. He betrays his daughter without any second thoughts, and how this betrayal relates to the other events in the play that lead to the chaos in the kingdom. The first King Lear film was only 5 minutes and was made in 1905, but the film was not survived. In 1970, Coral Lear and King Lear were films that received very stark, contrasting reviews from critics. Most disliked King Lear, which was directed by Peter Brook. Coral Lear, which was directed by Grigory Kozinstev, received many forms of praise. In 1975 and 1982, BBC television, Shakespeare, was an adaptation. There was an adaptation, Elements of King Lear, that was incorporated in the making of The Godfather Part 3, which was released in 1990. In 2001, Don Boyd used Lear to direct and adapt the play to the world of gangsters. And most recently, in 2002, American TV produced an adaptation of King of Chaos, which was based loosely off King Lear. It's important to remember that this play was written during a period when the monarchy was most important, and the role of monarchy was under constant scrutiny. King Lear shows the contemporary concerns about the power of early modern kings. The 16th and 17th century were a time of great social upheaval, both in England and in Europe as a whole. The Civil War broke out fewer than 30 years after Shakespeare's death, showing that England was still a troubled society. And Lear has established its creator not only as one of the great tragedy writers, measured alongside ancient Greeks, but as the foremost representative of a great age of tragedy.
Harold Bloom edited a collection of reviews on Shakespeare's King Lear, which was published in 2008 as Bloom's Shakespeare's Through the Ages. This edition contains a collection of reviews reaching back as far as the late 1600s. Some of the pieces included in Bloom's edition were full-length essays, others were experts designed to present a key point. In a 1699 review from James Drake, Drake defended the play from many other critics, stating that the play should be regarded with some respect. William Richard states in his argument that even though some of Lear's qualities are inconsistent with the times, the way Shakespeare put all these elements together was impressive and delightful. William Richard's review was seen in 1784. In 1880, Algernon Charles Swinburne admires King Lear and states that it is one of the greatest plays the poet has ever written, cementing his place among the greats of poetry. In 1974 review by Joyce Carol Oates, Oates describes how the moment of Lear's awakening sealed the deal and how powerful Shakespeare's writing was. It was rare, Oates states, to combine tragedy and the bliss of eternity. Most of the reviews yielded a positive support in favor of King Lear. Many of the negative criticism for Shakespeare's King Lear, however, comes from the tragic and unforeseen death of Cordelia, which many people took by surprise and did not like. The tragedy of King Lear is oftentimes regarded by critics as Shakespeare's greatest play. There was a time, however, when Shakespeare's form of the play was not popular due to the ending. This is where Nahum Tate steps in. Nahum Tate, who was an Irish poet, wrote an adaptation of the tragedy of King Lear called The History of King Lear. Here, we outline some of the differences between the two writings. The tragedy of King Lear was first appeared in print in 1608, while The History of King Lear first appeared in print in 1681. The hit tragedy of King Lear was not performed or preferred until after the late 1800s, more specifically 1838, which is the year that The History of King Lear was stopped. In the tragedy of King Lear, the fool is one of the central characters of the play, but in the history of King Lear, the character of the fool is absent from the text. In the tragedy of King Lear, the King of France marries Cordelia after she is disowned from her father, and Edgar has no love interest. Yet, in the history of King Lear, the King of France is absent from the play, and there is a love interest between Cordelia and Edgar. In the tragedy of King Lear, Cordelia sends the foreign army to restore her father's throne, while in the history of King Lear, it is the British, not Cordelia, to send for an army to restore the throne for King Lear. The major difference in between these two plays, of course, is the ending. In the original ending written by Shakespeare, Edgar kills Edmund, Goneril and Regan both die, and Cordelia is captured and executed in prison. King Lear, overcome with Cordelia's passing, dies of grief. In the history of King Lear, however, the king fights off two men who tried to hang Cordelia in prison, thus ultimately saving her life. King Lear keeps the throne, and Cordelia and Edgar are to be married. So, if the tragedy of King Lear is regarded as one of Shakespeare's most popular plays, why is there a need for a different adaptation and a different ending? Well, to start things off, Tate's version of the play was about 800 lines shorter than the original Shakespearean play. Most of the lines were kept intact, many were shortened, and some were omitted from the play. This can be seen for characters such as the Fool, who in Tate's version were not even in the play, and most of his lines were given to other characters. Many of Tate's changes were done as a result of the Restoration. The Restoration was a period when the monarchy restored the interregnum. The happy endings in King Lear's restoration of the throne can be justified by the Restoration because of King Charles III and how he had just restored the English monarchy. Many people were shocked at the death of Cordelia, which is one of the main reasons why Tate's adaptations was popular during this time period. Individuals such as Samuel Johnson were so shocked at the death of Cordelia that they refused to reread the ending of Shakespeare's play. Although many critics loved Tate's happy endings on stage, the literary reviews for the adaptation have been, and still are, very negative. This concludes the presentation on Shakespeare's The Tragedy of King